Welcome to the Codecast podcast. Real-world insights for your daily medical coding and billing processes. And now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Codecast podcast today. I'm fresh back from Hawaii AAPC Regional Conference, and I wanted to shout out to all of the amazing islanders and coders I met on Saturday and last week. You're always so nice and welcoming to me each year that I speak. This was my 15th year, and it was no different. It was just such a pleasure. It was great. So I had a great time last week. And I hope everyone else is doing well today. I hope you had a good weekend and are happy to be heading towards the fall season and pumpkin spice lattes and scones and kids back in school and some cooler weather. I know my work season now kicks into full gear now with travel and audits and you name it. So let's get started on today's topic. So today I'm going to talk about something that I was actually thinking about on my plane ride back to stateside, and I had a chance to catch up on some of my medical journal reading, and two articles really spoke to me that I'd like to discuss here. And one was what patients expect from today's medical practices. And really it focuses on some of the conveniences. And so if you're not really up on what patients are thinking, it's amazing how many surveys are done and what patients are being asked as far as what do you like about your physician. Now, I know a couple of podcasts ago I did something on professionalism and updating your practice. This is just a little different because I just want to give you some insight. But the other article I read here was also the 10 Commandments of Physician Wellness. And I know I focus a lot on coding and reimbursement, which is what the Codecast is for, and billing and et cetera. And I do talk to staff. We did a Burnout podcast. But I found from this article, and it was actually really, really good, and I'm going to repost it as a blog on my website. But it's not only good, but I know a lot of physicians are listening to the podcast. You've been contacting me for audits and education in your practices. Thank you for that, by the way. But you really need to hear this because it also applies to how you relate to your staff. And you're going to burn out before you are 40 or 50 if you really don't take some of these recommendations to heart. So I'm going to look at this and just kind of discuss a couple of things today. Since I am fresh back from a trip, it's always nice to kind of have maybe what we call a miscellaneous podcast, which just kind of gives you some things that have happened over the first week, of September, just over a holiday week, and really just address some things, again, that I've just kind of picked up from a couple of different medical journals and some things I think you can relate to. But first, the Codecast podcast is also brought to you today by Movado Watch Company, one of the world's leading watchmakers. Movado, modern, ahead of its time. Movado.com. Also check out their new affiliate, MVMT Watches, at mvmtwatches.com. And ICD-10monitor.com. Check out the weekly national radio show, Talk 10 Tuesday, and also daily published articles on the topic of healthcare and coding for practices and hospitals. ICD-10monitor.com. Also check out Talk 10 Tuesdays tomorrow. I'm actually speaking tomorrow on smoking cessation, which is actually, I have a comment on that in one of my coding questions today. So hopefully you will enjoy listening in on that as well. Okay, so to our topic, so some of the conveniences patients expect from today's medical practices. When I was reading this, I did a little bit roll my eyes, only because I'm thinking, it's amazing to me how entitled everybody is right now. This is what I want, not this is what I need. And I actually had a conversation with somebody recently about this, and actually it turned into kind of a heated discussion about spending money. And I said, you need to spend money on things that you absolutely need right now, fixing your car and food and groceries and budgeting and everything like that, instead of focusing on what you want, which would be tinted windows for your car and that new tattoo you want to get and all of that. And it's not my aversion to tattoos. I have a tiny little wave on my foot, but I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, you have to really separate out some of those wants versus needs and necessities in life. And I look at some of this as far as what the patients really expect, and we have to figure out, are these wants or needs? And how open is your office to making sure that the patients are taken care of? So one of the things is appointment scheduling. Patients can order anything right now, from a book to a mattress to what else can you order on Amazon? But anytime with a few clicks on their smartphone. They don't want to spend 15 minutes on hold to make an appointment anymore. So if you can offer online scheduling to patients. It'll make it easier for them to book an appointment. That's going to go a long way in your practice to making patients happy. So to me, that would be a need. And also it will free up your front desk to work on tasks that are focused on what they need to do in person with patients. And scheduling isn't necessarily one of them, unless there is also can be something that says if you need to speak with somebody, then you can press a button and talk to somebody live. But online appointment setting, that is a huge necessity. The next one would be streamlined paperwork. So today's patient expects a smooth and easy visit. The more forms that can be filled out electronically and in advance, the better. No one wants to sit in a waiting room filling out forms on a clipboard that could have been done the night before or even a week before. And checkout should be just as easy, with little or no time spent standing in line. Any prescription or follow-up appointment should be as automated as possible. And I know I've seen that already. I mentioned a couple times going to the orthopedic physician recently, and they basically say, okay, your script is on its way. And so if you can keep that in mind, that's going to make patients happy. Streamlined paperwork and online prescriptions and follow-up appointments, anything that you can automate, that's going to be a need. It's a want as well, but that's going to also be a need for time management and workflow in your practice. Minimized wait times would be something else. So patients expect the doctor to see them within about 15 minutes of their appointment time. Okay, I live in a world where we know that's not going to happen on a regular basis. But a lot of patients now have very little tolerance in their own busy schedules for physicians who continue to run late or overbook. And to mitigate the issue, consider implementing a system that maybe text patients updates on wait times, allowing them to adjust their arrival to reflect the doctor's current schedule. I saw something recently on that, and it was pretty impressive, where somebody doesn't have to run out or leave work early if they get a text within 15 minutes to a half an hour based on their drive time. You're not always going to know that, but basically saying the doctor is running behind. So find out, and I know that Advanced MD does this. They have some really good software as far as integrating that into your scheduling situation. But that is a want. So it's not necessarily a need, but that's a want. And I would say that is a strong want that could turn into a need at some point. Quick responses to questions. So this is a want, but also it's a need for your patient. So no, it's a want for you, but patients expect a response to questions via email or an electronic health record portal really within 24 hours or less. This time frame is basic business protocol. So this is what retails and service industries do. Medical practices must embrace it as well. Also expect lab results to be posted online or emailed to them for easy viewing, or they can get it at their patient portal. Think about what I do with my Coding Corner. So if you are a member of my Coding Corner online services, where you can get unlimited coding questions through email, it is something you pay for per year. I give you a commitment to respond to you in no later than 24, 48 hours. It's usually quicker than that, but the 24, 48 hour rule is because of there's always a possibility I may have to find some information for you, and so that's what takes a little bit longer. But when I say 24 hours, I do not mean 24 hours business days. I mean, if you ask me a question on Friday, you're going to hear from me on a Saturday. And I think some of these quick responses and these things that the patients want, this is something that it's a want, yes, but it is also a need, because you're dealing with their health care. And so immediate responses are going to go a long way in your practice, making sure that they can get the results so they're not concerned about it. And so keep that in mind, that, giving them that wait time only makes people more angry. It only makes people think you don't care about them, you're not listening to them, and that they're not important to you. So it's important to really embrace those quick responses. Updated waiting rooms. So I don't need to go too much on this since we talked about this recently, but again, free Wi-Fi, coffee, and water. Those are the minimum. A modern design with a comfortable furniture, natural lighting. It just puts patients at ease. Any kind of a dingy room plastered with warnings and payment notices isn't exactly customer friendly. And so make sure that you do have a customer-friendly, I hate to call them waiting rooms, reception areas, because we don't want people to have to think, this is where you wait. It's almost like when they put you in I don't know if any of you ever been to Disneyland, but there's a couple of rides there where you move from room to room to wait for the ride. And so some of it is kind of fun if you go on Haunted House, but some is not. But it's just kind of like, okay, we don't want to be in the wait area. You want to be in the reception area. And then transparent pricing. Patients expect guidance on how much services will cost that will be covered by their insurance and what will not. Yes, I know having that conversation about money is not fun, but if there's a referral made, the patient should be informed whether it be in-network or out-of-network. Any bill sent by the office or online, it should be easy to read and understand. But there's that new rule that Congress just passed as far as surprise billing, mostly goes to hospitals, but still it's basically saying that if a patient hasn't received a bill from you or a financial statement within a year and you surprise them all of a sudden that they've got this out of pocket, there's a possibility they don't have to pay for it. And so that's a big problem. So transparent pricing is huge. It's part of their healthcare encounter to understand what their out of pocket's going to be. And then availability. Patients don't get sick only during business hours, so that goes back to the response time as well. Offering a few Saturday appointments, maybe Thursday night appointments. Actually, don't do Thursday night, that's football night, sorry. Have you seen those new Tide commercials? I have to do a sidebar on that. Those were cracking me up, saying that laundry is not done on Sunday. As I'm sitting there watching my Steelers game yesterday, yes, I'm grumpy, and basically folding laundry as I'm watching it, but it just cracks me up when you're talking about some of those things as far as patients do not get just sick during business hours and those practices that are only open 8 to 5. And believe me, they shut off their phones at 5:01. They're not accommodating to patients' busy lifestyles. And urgent care centers and retail clinics, they offer extended hours daily. And if your practice doesn't adapt its schedule to your patients, their care is going to change places. They're going to go one place that does, and you're going to lose that revenue. So availability is huge. One of the things I did for any of you that emailed me during my time in Hawaii is I did put an away message. That's the first time in 28 years I have put an away message on my email that said that I was basically limited on email. But for those of you that did email me during that time, half of you got a response because I only actually took 3 full days where I didn't do any work, sort of. But it's interesting when you see certain clinics that have this really limited availability, and I just don't get that. You have to be accommodating. And for me, that is a need. That's not a want, that's a need. That's actually your survival when it comes to you're keeping your patients. Okay, so now I want to focus on a coding question before I get into that 10 commandments for the physician's health. So here's a question that came up recently. It actually was also a question I got from one of the attendees at my Hawaii conference. So they're doing smoking cessation, and that's actually what I'm talking about on my Talk 10 Tuesday tomorrow with ICD-10 Monitor, if anybody listens in. They asked if vaping is considered part of a smoking conversation with a patient when it comes to smoking cessation. So just so you know, vaping is not considered smoking cessation by federal regulators because it's actually considered a smoking cessation aid. Now, do I completely agree with that? No, because a lot of patients now are, I hate to say the word addicted because it's not proven to be addictive, but it is proven to have addictive qualities at this point. And you've now seen that vaping is tied to blindness and lung cancer. It's almost just as bad as dealing with cigarettes and tobacco-related disorders, but it's actually considered a smoking cessation aid, so you can't use that in discussions with your patient. What about marijuana? That is still under consideration from the federal regulators and FDA. And so is it considered a tobacco product? Right now, it's actually not. And so that's where, is it part of your counseling with a patient? If you're basing your E&M on time, yes, but it would not be something that you could use for that smoking cessation code of 99406 and 407. Another question came in. This is from one of my Tennessee subscribers. It said, Terry, I'm not certain about when I can report critical care codes in a cardiology setting. Can you give me an example? Okay. So let's say the cardiologist performs critical care services where she uses high complexity decision making to assess, manipulate, and support vital system functions to treat a patient who suffers from circulatory failure and respiratory failure. The cardiologist documented that she spent 1 hour and 15 minutes with the patient you can report 99291 and 99292 on your claim. So that was for the initial hour and additional up to 30 minutes. And so just make sure that time is documented, the conversation is documented, the status of the patient is documented, and you'll be fine as far as being able to get that reimbursed. Our coding question today was brought to you by Simple Health Radio, discussing topics related to your health and well-being, simplehealthradio.com. Okay, so now let me get back to the 10 Commandments of Physician Wellness. And I just thought this was such a great read because recent studies are reporting that nearly 45% of doctors are feeling burnout in their work, more so among other U.S. workers. And it's really kind of contributing serious consequences for physicians and patients: loss of professionalism, medical errors, decreased patient satisfaction, and sometimes even depression and suicidal ideation. And we don't want that for our physicians. We need to help them and explain to them how to manage their stress. So this is something that came out from the Marshall Field Clinic and also from Harvard Law Journal. And I just thought it was such a great article. So this doesn't come from me, but this is something that came from, some authoritative references in the medical industry. So the first one was, thou shalt not expect someone else to reduce your stress. That's not just for doctors, that's for everybody. So it says, do not expect expect caring management to keep you comfortable. So ask not what the organization is doing to lower your stress, but rather take charge of your own well-being. So to be sure, organizations have a role in improving practice design and efficiency and promoting meeting. But at the end of the day, you're the one in the work situation. And so you have to figure out how to lighten your psychological load, if nothing else. Now, another thing that can really be a problem for physicians, and this is number 2, it says, thou shalt not resist change. Oh my gosh, doctors do not like change. You know who you are if you're listening. Physicians do not handle the ambiguity or change well. Doctors are typically controlling, compulsive, and prefer to do things their own way. I've seen many of my clients and physicians get disgusted, demoralized, and doubtful about their future. And they can tend to be critical, conservative, and cautious, and often waste more emotional energy hanging on to these old habits and beliefs than embracing changes. Just think about this for those of you who've been doing this a while, and the doctors. Remember when we took your pagers and gave you a smartphone? Remember when we went from a paper chart to electronic medical records? Remember when we finally put in fax machines? I just aged myself. There's all kinds of things that you have to consider when it comes to change. And resisting it is not going to help you with trying to keep that optimism and hope and that passion for your job alive. So you need to try not to resist change. And then another one says, thou shalt not take thyself in vain. This means taking care of yourselves. Physicians are caregivers. They take care of others and often put others' needs first. If you see 25 patients a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year for 25 years, how is that sustainable? So the Harvard Business Review goes on and says that in order to perform at those high levels over the long haul, you should train in the same systematic multi-level class that athletes do. So you're going to have to really look at, how do you spend your energy, your chronic stress? How do you basically physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually, how do you decompress? How do you basically take things down a notch? Being healthy as far as attention to diet and exercise, hydration. Do you take a break during the day? Do many doctors tell me they never get a lunch break? And taking a lunch break almost looks like a sign of weakness. I've heard staff members say, yeah, he always takes his lunch break, almost in a degrading way. And I look at them thinking, do you know what they're doing all day? So you really have to have those health habits that are going to basically practice what you preach. You need to take care of yourself. And then another one says, and this is number 4, remember what is holy to thee. Physicianhood cannot be lived in isolation from total life beliefs. So having that moral compass, connect with your purpose. So energizing force, what inspires and invigorates you. Connect with the moment. So pause mindfully before each patient. Mindfulness practice has been shown to reduce burnout. And meditation is not simply sitting, clearing your head and chanting. It's just focusing on attention, finding that just immediate center for that minute. I have to do that at least 2 or 3 times a day. And I know that sounds very guru-ish, but sometimes you just need to connect with yourself, just sit down, take the time every day to just reflect for a minute. Even if it's just a minute, look outside. I've done so many webinars on this where you basically just look outside, take a window break, and also begin each day with gratitude. That's a big deal. Count your blessings. You're happy to be happy that you woke up today. I know I am. And then honor your limits. There are limits to the workload you can carry. I know physicians always feel they can do more. It's a formula for making oneself and everybody else miserable because you don't know when to quit. Now, I'm preaching to the choir here because I know that I'm dealing with that. Actually, today is going to be a 14, 15-hour day for me. But create clearer boundaries between work and home. Having electronic medical records is also dangerous because we take our work home with us. We do emails, dictations 24/7, and that's not always healthy. Deliberately develop a role shedding ritual at the end of the day. Hang up the white coat, put away the laptop, use your drive home to decompress, and then hopefully greet your families if you've not seen them for a week. So sometimes patients make unreasonable demands and you need to set limits rather than bending over backwards trying to make everyone happy. It just doesn't happen. You can do the best you can, but it doesn't happen. And number 6 says, thou shalt not work alone. You need positive, supportive relationships. Close relationships are powerful, and they are by means for promoting positive emotions and effective recovery. Physicians are more likely to burn out when the relationships with people that they work with and live with are filled with conflict. So relationships and work give one a sense of meaning. So you really need to make sure that those relationships are positive, they're inspiring, they will help with sharing responsibilities, and don't over leverage financially. Sometimes smaller, simpler is better. And in your workplace, a key factor that contributes to satisfaction is getting along with people that you work with. We spend more time at work than we do at home, yet physicians often choose a job based primarily on money and geography and then leave because of not getting along with the people that they work with. So physicians really need to embrace their staff and then try to occasionally, not just joining specialty societies, but take the time to talk to your staff. Maybe once in a while, have lunch with them and just let them know that you all have each other's backs. It's really important that your staff know that you're not just this big intimidating factor. And I'm not just talking about the male physicians, I'm talking about the female physicians as well. Sometimes you can be also unapproachable, but it's important to make sure that, yes, you have that doctor-employee relationship, but also that you're letting your staff know that they are important to you. And then number 7, and again, remember, this is coming from the Harvard academic journal. Thou shalt not kill or take it out on others. Okay, when things go wrong, doctors can get mean. You can. This refers to the hostile workplace and how we treat our staff and each other. Having a good medical assistant or nurse can make or break one's day, but these relationships have to be cultivated. So you have to set the bar at 0 tolerance and be willing to go to the mat in addressing any kind of disruptive behavior. Prompt intervention, that can be career saving for you. And also have a program in place to really train people on their attitude. I've done several trainings recently on attitude. One of the biggest openings I have now in my career and in my services is personal business coaching. And thank you for those of you that have signed up for that and have contacted me for that. I'm now over a dozen people just in the last 2 months on that. And it's amazing just how those little steps can make a difference in just how you relate to people and your professionalism. Thou shalt not work harder, thou shalt work smarter. So I say that to a lot of people. Some physicians continue to do things the same old way and struggle with getting work done. So decreasing stress for electronic health records has been identified as the key in relieving burnout. User templates, structured documents, getting rid of some busy work, but make sure that if unloading these activities, make sure that they're not contributing to you taking work home. So we want to keep that in mind as well. And then try to find joy and mastery in your work. Some of you became doctors because you wanted to help people and make a contribution, but burnout is about the loss of that passion. And so we need more than physician satisfaction. You need to rediscover your joy in what you're doing, not just survive, but thrive. So, really look at the motivation that comes not just from the financial reward of being a physician, but also in the challenge of the autonomy, the mastery, the purpose of what you're doing. So, physicians who spend at least 20% of their time, this is what Mayo Clinic confirmed, on an activity felt to be meaningful, whether it be clinical work, community service, or research, they're least likely to experience burnout. That's one of the reasons I do the podcast. Podcast is my creative outlet. It's still my core function with healthcare, but I get to talk to all of you. I'm hoping all of you are listening. Hopefully you're laughing a little bit in your car. I'm picturing that you're thinking, okay, Terry's in a mood today, or Terry's nuts today, or wow, I really learned something today. I really like her. And hopefully nobody's going, she's bugging me today. I'm sure there's been a couple of those days. I bug myself sometimes, but you have to find something that just gives you that, that passion, that drive. And I do it because I hope I'm helping somebody at least a little bit achieve their goals and helping you with your job as well. But find that joy and mastery in your work. And then number 10, thou shalt continue to learn. We are all good learners. We are bright people. We have lots of interests, but nobody more than physicians. You can grow and change in your career, and that means periodically reinventing yourself and rediscovering what really is your passion. And physicians have found that learning a new skill or going back to school can rekindle that passion or growth. So 50% of physicians facing burnout, according to Marshfield Clinic Research Foundation, said that they have found happiness in medicine, but basically what they're looking at is they're trying to see what they can do to embrace some of the changes that are taking place right now in the overall healthcare field. And when they look at that and how they can contribute to that change, that can also ease on that burnout state. So hopefully those things, those 10 commandments really kind of assisted you on what you're dealing with when it comes to burnout. And hopefully not just physicians, but my listeners this week, hopefully you're taking some of that information and applying it to what you do as well. And so we just want to kind of keep you in the loop on that. And hopefully you realize that it isn't just for physicians. So hopefully that can help you. So my personal insight this week, yes, I'm having major depression over my opening week 1. My Pittsburgh Steelers stunk it up yesterday, losing 33-3 to, of course, the Patriots. And so I'm very grumpy today, if you couldn't tell. I'm trying to be happy. I just got back from a trip. I'm trying to be, life is great. And then Sunday night, big stage, we could not have played worse. We had a receiver that dropped more balls than I can count. We had no chemistry on offense. And our defense, honestly, looked like a college team trying out for the NFL. It was ugly. And I've got to do another podcast today and tomorrow on my Steel City Underground. And I'm going to be ranting a bit. So that one, I actually get to rant quite a bit. But also, somebody mentioned that I needed to include it in my podcast. I put something on my Instagram, if you follow me on there, at Terry NCA. I came back with sunburnt hands. Now, I'm a very fair-skinned person, so I do get some color, but I'm constantly putting on 50 sunscreen. But you would have seen my 2nd-degree burn pinkies. They're fine now. They don't hurt, and the 2 blisters are gone. But oh my gosh, it was crazy. Just having your hands out of the water. I don't like the feel of sunscreen, so when I put it on, I wash my hands. But then you take it off the back of your hands, and yes, people, you can get very bad sunburnt hands. So be careful with that. I think now I'm just kind of one big freckle, but I can't wait to go back next September, and they've already invited me. So I appreciate that again from the island people. And then next week, I wanted to give you kind of a shout out so you know what's coming up. I'm going to talk about special services. So some kind of the after hours coding, some things that people are like, why can't I code for this? Certain group discussions. And we have them for pulmonary. We have them for CPAP, for sleep disorders. And can you code for that? But also, does it take away from your E&M coding? And we don't want to do that. So I'll let you know about that. And that'll be next week. So that'll be our 9/17. And then in my top 10 Tuesday at the end of the month on the 24th, I'm going to go back to my modifier spotlight, and I'm going to use the top 10 to talk about the modifier 51, 52, and 53. And that'll actually be episode 100. So I hope you log into that. I'm actually going to have a special episode to celebrate my 100th episode, which will air hopefully on a Thursday that following week or that week. And I think I'm going to focus on the medical decision-making prescription drug management issue. That's such a topic where I think that'll be kind of fun to just give you maybe a 15-minute hit on that and give you what we call a bonus episode. So for those of you that have asked, yes, the Business Collective podcast is going to be up very soon. So we're hoping within 2 weeks. I have another podcast. My Bun Life podcast is going to be up again. We have some episodes we've recorded and now we just have to put it all together. And then follow me also on Steel City Underground if you're looking for football. And then I also have with PAYCOM, Professional Association of Healthcare Office Managers. They've asked me to do a podcast for them and host one. And that's going to start in October. And so there's got a lot of things on the horizon when it comes to podcasts. So you're going to be inundated if that's what you like and that's what your passion is. And I know everybody's really on the podcast train right now. So hopefully you're enjoying everything you're listening to. And we are going to hopefully be bringing you some things that you haven't heard before as well. So that's it for me today. Make it a great day and a great week. And thank you for listening to the Codecast podcast.
For more information on medical coding, billing, auditing, and compliance, including how to hire Terry, follow Terry on Twitter at TerryCoder1 or visit her website at www.terryfletcher.net. Podcast producer Joe Kuzma. Music producer Dassassin Music.